The third aspect of writer's block is doubt. That's purely psychological. Is this project worth the time I'm putting in on it? Am I good enough to get this finished? Once it's finished, will anybody care? What if it never gets published? There's a lot of doubt that comes in, and that will stop you, because the whole idea of it's just not worth the time and the effort, and there are more important things. That is a big hurdle to come to go over. We all think of, if you think back to cartoons when we were young, usually if a character was struggling with a decision, you would have an angel and a devil pop up on his shoulder and encourage one way or the other. That is the same thing with writing. You have a creative and you have an editor. Now, the editor is not always the devil, but it will stop you. That editor hat that you put on is the one that's coming back and saying, okay, hold on. You just wrote this sentence. It doesn't make any sense. That comma's out of place. Should there be a semicolon there or a colon? And anything to stop you from doing it. So think about the creative angel and the editor devil. And what you're trying to do is stop the editor, the critic, from stopping you. Now, there is a place for it, and it comes in later, and that's what you have to just tell yourself. But you've done this before. When you do the automatic writing, when you do the morning pages, you are not letting the critic in, because you're moving the pencil or typing for that set amount of time, and just letting it flow. And that's the same thing here. Just let it flow out, get it on the page. The doubt needs to stay away, the critic stays away, the editor steps in when that editor is needed. So writing without judgment is really hard, but it's a skill that allows you to get words on the paper and get through writing, get through your writer's block. I always think that it's best, it's probably one of the most important skills you can have, is to know when the editor is stepping in, to know when your mind switches to that side and says, oh, let's rethink this. There's a time and place. So if you can develop that skill that says, okay, yes, I hear you. This might not be the best that I've done, but I need to get it out, and I can come back tomorrow, next week, and it's in front of me. It's on the page. It's easier to fix at that point than trying to fix it in your head. So allow the creator to get everything out, and then have the editor come in or the critic come in and then question, is that character right? Should we kill this character off? Let the creator just go. I mean, they might come to that point, and then the editor's like, no, you can't kill that person off. But you do have that internal dialogue between creating and critic and edit. So the critic isn't all bad. In fact, it's necessary when the time comes. Along with the internal critic there that tries to stop you from writing, there are external critics as well. So it's not just a skill to separate the internal critic while you're writing, but as you're writing, to recognize the external critics and take what they say and either keep part of it or just reject it. Someone will always criticize everything you do, but you have to separate yourself from the criticism. That's one thing that took a while for any published writer, because as soon as it goes out and it's on something like Amazon, you're going to get critics. And lots of times writers say, don't read reviews because some are good, some are just vicious, and understanding where that critic is coming from is part of the solution. In Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, she calls criticism, or those external critics, blocked creatives. And that's what I've told other authors. It's like, I've got a publishing company, and I had one author that was just torn up because every review she'd gotten was really good because it was friends and family. Then a stranger came in and gave her some good reviews, and then another stranger came in and just tore the book apart. But I told her, that person, who knows where they're coming from, what they're struggling with. There was something, as Julia Cameron said, it's a blocked creative, that they saw in her work something they could not do. That criticism, that external criticism, you have to realize it's about what you've done. It's the book, it's not about you yourself, it's the execution of it. And everybody has something different. Everybody looks for something different. If we all wanted the same thing, there would only be a handful of books. Not everybody likes romance. Not everybody likes science fiction. Not everybody likes history. So you're going to have people come across it and say, oh, I didn't like that. I've had critics say they didn't like a book because they didn't like the cover. Well, so you take external criticism with a grain of salt. Do what you need to do and realize that there will be naysayers, and it's going to happen. The critics that I value are the ones who offer constructive criticism, ways to make the work better. Discard anything that feels like a personal attack. Those statements are more about the critic, the person that's saying that, than they are about you or your work. My friend and fellow writer Michelle Moore always says to take a critique group suggestions that ring true and pass over the rest. So you do get, this is probably the first place that you would get external critics or critique group, because that's what they're there for. But it's a good way to learn how to manage criticism. And what you look for is it's not a personal attack. It's more about how you executed the story or described a character. They're just saying, oh, I didn't get it. It didn't make sense. So that's when it's kind of like, okay, what didn't make sense? And it can make the work better. But again, it is your manuscript. It's your work. So you decide what critiques to keep and what to discard. You certainly don't want any work to become a group work. It's your creation, and the external critics, they might have some good ideas, but for the most part, you need to evaluate what works and what doesn't. When you feel stalled, run down, slapped around, take a deep breath and try one of these techniques to get the writing going and flowing again. You can finish the manuscript. It'll be a manuscript with more creativity, focused, and most importantly, it's going to be a manuscript of an author that knows they can get it done, and there is nothing that will stop them. So sit down in front of the computer with your notebook and pen and start writing, and don't let anything stop you.